While I was grabbing whiskey, I found a dead mouse that my cat got.
Does he get stuff often, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's caught birds, he's caught chipmunks, he's caught bunnies. Like, if anything is in the yard, he'll catch it. This was right outside on the patio, thankfully not in the house, but there was one time where he caught like 6 mice in the span of 4 days inside the house. So like if they're there, he'll get them. So I know at least I know at least we don't have any mice in the house because he will get them.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
And we're down Dan again. His back's giving him a lot of trouble.
Dan.
Yeah. So he's going to sit it out, I think, a little bit longer. Hopefully his back gets better.
Yeah, we feel for you, Dan. I had somebody, I think it was Neil, was like, when you tore your ACL, you were laying on the couch doing the podcast. How come Dan can't lay on the couch and do the podcast? So, Dan, if you're listening, maybe next time just lay down. And no, I'm sure it's pretty painful. The back is nothing to mess with, but yeah. I miss you, Dan.
Yeah, so we do wish him a speedy recovery, even though the show's a little bit better without him. But
yeah.
So we have
So what are we talking about today?
A little bit of a mishmash today. We're sipping on the new Barrell Mizunara finish, which I'm excited to get into. I can't think of any other Mizunara finish that I've had, so this will kind of be a first for me, I think.
Really?
But
I find that pretty hard to believe.
I know, right? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the Glendalough 7-year Mizunara Irish whiskey, and I can't believe I'm blanking on American whiskeys with Mizunara because I know I've had some. Let's see. Let's do a quick search here. What else there is out there? And I guess we should have researched Mizunara Oak a little bit, but we just hop on and talk and do whatever. Oh, it was the World Whiskey Society bottle that came with a book of like Jim Murray's whiskey guide that had the Mizunara Oak. That's what I was thinking of, but I have not tried that. Okay. Oh, and Rabbit Hole did a very limited 15-year Kentucky straight bourbon finished in Mizunara, and that was like a $500 bottle or so, maybe more. But those are the first two that popped up, and I think those are probably the first two I was thinking of.
My understanding is that it's very expensive to get Mizunara barrels because the trees don't grow straight. So you kind of have to harvest like very small pieces of wood from the branches at a time to get like a nice long plank, to get your barrel staves. So it's difficult to get barrels because it's in short supply, and then it's also difficult to actually harvest the wood and make it usable for barrels. So I believe the price point on this is the same as all of their other finished whiskeys in the finished whiskey series for Barrell, which is cool considering this is typically up there in like the $500 kind of range for stuff for very limited edition kind of things. So yeah, I'm excited to try this. And then after we give our our notes on that. We're going to talk about master classes, many of which Gold Eagle has per year, and just how you came up with the idea, and
Mm-hmm.
why they're so much fun, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to dive into that. But first, I found a little article about Mizunara, so I'm just going to read through it really quick. Um, Mizunara Oak Explained by Decanter.com. So, whiskey and other spirits aged in Mizunara casks command high prices and are adored by collectors. But what exactly is Mizunara and is it worth paying for? So, let's see. What is Mizunara? It's a Japanese oak native to, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but like Hokkaido,
Oh,
Japan's
Hokkaido. Yeah.
northernmost Hokkaido. Yeah, I am not the best with geography. Um, it is one of the rarest and most expensive oaks in the world, and it's associated with luxury spirits. And just its name on the label can give prices a boost. So Barrelcraft coming in with the reasonably priced Mizunara. Um, why is it so difficult to work with? Mizunara trees can grow for 200 years before it's large enough to make into casks. So, exactly what you were saying. They're very slim and they grow kind of curvy and have a very knotty wood content. They have a high water content, and Mizunara translates to water oak. So the staves must dry out for a lot longer. At least 3 years the staves need to dry out.
Wow.
A lot of times with American oak, you see sometimes 3 to 6 months as a standard. Some distilleries will do up to a year, but I
Hmm.
don't think I've seen any larger than that.
Yeah.
They're less pliable, harder to shape, very porous, blah, 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 blah. Why is it so expensive? There's strict laws in Japan that limit how much Mizunara may be logged each year.
Hmm.
So it's grown in Japan's national forest. And okay, so this part is the key part. It cannot be cut down, they must fall naturally. So you can't just go into a forest and start cutting down Mizunara trees and using them for casks. You have to just wait for the tree to fall. So I guess that's a
Hmm.
very good explanation on how and why they're so sought after. And getting into flavor, Mizunara casks get spirits nostrils twitching. It has the lowest tannin of any oak species used to make casks. Much richer in vanilla flavored compound and very prized in wood aged spirits. All right. So I think that's a
Cool.
pretty good wrap around with Mizunara Oak. Let's dive into the whiskey and knowing the Amberana that came from Barrel, I'm kind of expecting this to be a light expression of Mizunara Oak, especially considering the price point as well.
Yeah. The nose is excellent. I think those vanilla flavors are definitely coming through. Um, it smells pretty oaky.
Yeah, and it
Um,
smells a little spicy too. It almost
yeah,
reminds me a little bit of Amberana, but just maybe less like cinnamon and desserty notes.
yeah, it's kind of like it's a little bit of like a cookie baking kind of smell, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what type. Maybe like snickerdoodles or something like that. It's like
Mm,
a little bit of like cinnamon, but it's not crazy. Maybe even like a little bit of like ginger kind of thing.
yeah. Which yeah, let me dive into this.
It's definitely flavorful.
It's like bursting with like rich fruits, but the whole entire time the oak is there. There's a little bit of spice there. I'm getting that tingle on the tongue, like kind of tingles your mouth right away, your tongue,
Hmm.
and that kind of lasts throughout the entire thing. Um, but I get a lot of like bright rich fruits up front, maybe some citrus, maybe some berries, and then it kind of fades into, I don't know, maybe a little bit of like that cookie dough flavor that you were picking up on the nose.
Yeah, it's definitely very like juicy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is not tannic. Um, in any kind of way that you would expect a finished whiskey to be. Um, it's almost got like double oak kind of things going on, but without all the heavy tannins that you would expect from like the Woodford double oak or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, much more on like the brighter
This.
side of flavors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is the official tasting notes from Barrel Craft, which it's Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee distilled. It's a 6 year. It's 116.42 proof, and they say subtle notes of sandalwood, herbal spice, and coconut.
Hmm.
So that coconut is the fruit that we were getting. The herbal spice, yes, definitely that tingling sensation. And the sandalwood, we said there was oak kind of present throughout. So pretty spot on. No, I did not look at this before. I didn't even know they had the tasting notes on here. The only thing missing was that coconut, which I'm gonna see if I can pick that out now
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
almost
wasn't really getting that.
I'm almost getting like a hint of like toasted coconut. It's what it
Yeah, I
reminds
could
me of
definitely
a little
see
bit.
a little bit of yeah, I guess that was kind of that combination of like the citrus and berries. Nothing
Hmm.
really dominated, but that's probably that just like fruity tropical note there.
Yeah,
Um, it's good.
yeah,
It's
I
good.
like it. The finish
Mm-hmm.
is really long and like pretty
Yeah.
bold, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, I mean, if you're gonna try something finished in Mizunara, this is a good place to an accessible place to start.
Absolutely. They Barrel always does a nice job of letting the finish kind of influence but not take over. You can still
Hmm.
really taste the whiskey here. For those of you who are not fans of Tennessee whiskey, I'm really not tasting any Tennessee whiskey here. I'm tasting a little bit more Kentucky, Indiana, um,
Hmm.
but maybe just a little bit in there. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it
it's
to
good.
me
It's very
it
good.
tastes a lot like an MGP bourbon. I'm getting a lot
Hmm.
of those notes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, for the price, I mean, I'm pretty 99.999% sure it'll line up with the Amberana and Tale of Two Islands, so we'll have it for 79.99 when it comes out. Um, and I think it's definitely a buy, especially because you don't really see Mizunara Oak out there too often with American whiskeys, especially not at a price point of under $100.
Hmm. All right, so thumbs up.
I'd say thumbs up. Yeah, I don't think not a 10 out of 10, but definitely thumbs up. And I would probably say, mm, I don't know. I mean, between a 7 and a 9, depending on the day. Um, Considering the price point and it being only a 6 year, even though we probably know there's some older stuff in there too.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean this is something I would have in my repertoire, especially since it's unique with that Mizunara on the label.
Yeah, if I feel like reaching for like a heavy hitter in terms of flavor, this is definitely a good one.
Yeah, it is kind of like a heavy hitter without the price point.
Yeah, yeah, very very bold flavors that you'd usually get in something much older, and at this proof point. So yeah, I think it's pretty good overall.
Mm-hmm. All right, bold prediction: Mizunara is going to become the new Amberana. and it's actually going to be here to stay because I think they share a lot of the same characteristics in terms of what they do to the whiskey, but it's not nearly as overpowering as Amberana. You
Hmm.
can pour something into this glass, you can taste something after you've tasted this Mizunara, whereas Amberana just kind of wrecks your palate, wrecks your glass, wrecks the smell of the room for the rest of the night, type of deal.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. It's much more palatable, or
Mm-hmm.
like universally palatable than the Amberana is. I feel like, um, and we talked about this in the finished whiskey episode, but I feel like Amberana rye is something that pairs well. I think Mizunara lends itself much better to pairing with bourbon, because this is like a
I've got the
very
Amberana
nice.
here. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
nice.
is
Sorry.
the
I got the Amberana here just to compare it. I don't have another glass, so I'm just gonna drink straight out of the bottle, like I'm at a tailgate. For those of you watching, mm, much sweeter, much denser, and yeah, definitely. I mean, I still love the Barrel Craft Amberana. I think it's one of the better Amberanas out there, just because of
yeah.
how balanced it is. But the flavors are so much more intense, and it probably didn't hit Amberana much long at all compared to other whiskeys out there on the market finishing Amberana.
Hmm. Yeah,
But yeah, the
definitely.
Mizunara is a win. I really like the Barrel Amberana, but I think I would prefer the Mizunara just because it's more versatile and the finish like just lingers and lingers and lingers. So as soon as this comes out, we will have it
Yeah.
at Gold Eagle and we will put one at the bar. So swing by and here's what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to do a coupon code, but if you come into the bar when we have the Mizunara at the bar, and if I'm at the store, ask me for a free half ounce, and I'll pour you a little half ounce. If you're
There you
listening to
go.
this podcast, got to come in when I'm there, though. I'm the only one that can do it, so uh, catch me at the right time, and you can get yourself a free half ounce pour of the Mizunara, and it should be in within the next 2 weeks, I would assume, if they're sending us out samples of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Like, yeah, very very soon it'll be out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, keep an eye out.
I'm
Um,
gonna text my guy right now, so maybe we'll have an answer by the end of the podcast.
yeah, catch me and Jake at the bar at Gold Eagle on like a Friday afternoon. Get a sample.
Yeah.
Well, so since we brought up Gold Eagle and the bar, it's a good time to transition to the master classes. So for anybody that's listening and doesn't know, almost once a week, basically once a week, Gold Eagle
Sometimes twice
has
a week, so I think you
sometimes
could say
twice.
once a week. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes on extreme occasions, 3 times a week. So, yeah.
Gold Eagle has what Jake has dubbed master classes, where a distillery or a distributor or whoever will come in, winery,
Mm-hmm.
or whoever will come in and give a presentation on their portfolio of spirits or wines or whatever, and kind of do a guided tasting as well as some information about the brand and distillery or the winery or whatever. Um, I mean, I don't know how long have you been doing the master classes? It's been several years now.
It's definitely been over 2 years. I want to say it's been 3 years. I think is how long we've been doing them for. 3 years. That sounds about yeah, 3 years. Mm-hmm.
What prompted you to start doing them?
So, um, what prompted me was going down to Kentucky and doing tastings at distilleries. I I felt very inspired going down to Kentucky many times and doing distilleries tastings because they have great hospitality. You learn a ton, and this was this was before. Was it? Did we start doing them before COVID or after COVID? I think it was right after COVID that we started doing them. So we used to do big whiskey tastings. We would do, 2 or 3 a year where we would just have, 15, 20 distilleries there at one point, one night. We'd have 100 people in the store. Those were a blast, but nobody was really learning anything. They were just trying so much. And it kind of course, got a little sloppy at times. And I mean, we would sell a ton of bottles at those tastings, but I think the shift in the industry of people wanting to know more and learn more happened. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't just want to drink to get drunk. Like people want to know what they're drinking and they want to know about the distillery. They want to know the history. They want to know about the grains. They want to know about the barrels. There's just so much more that the consumer wants to know and be a part of now than ever before. So I was kind of like, how do I replicate what I go and get at the distilleries and bring it back to the store. And this was seemed like the perfect solution because we could just focus and hone in on one brand. And I the first one we did was a Balvenie and Glenfiddich, and did not. I had no idea. I thought maybe I had a thought in my head like nobody might sign up for this. Just kind of threw it out there and it filled up right away. So that was extremely encouraging. And master classes are actually the reason why we expanded the bar because we just needed more seating in there for these classes. If I'm sure most of you have been to the store, but we have 9 tables now that we can seat people at. 10 actually, including the big table, and then we have the whole bar. So we had to just put in more tables, and I guess that's the little crash course on how the master classes have grown and where they've started from. And Yeah, I mean they're a blast for me to put on. It's there. We usually have them on Tuesday nights, so it works. It works for us because the bars close on Tuesday. The reps, the biggest thing is the reps can do it. Like a lot of the reps are booked out for 4 or 5 months ahead of time on like Fridays and Saturdays. And then I think it works for the consumer too because it's not, it's more of an educational thing. And yes, you get to taste some good whiskey and a decent amount of whiskey, but it's more of an educational thing that kind of breaks up your week, and you can pop in and learn and taste some things and hopefully find something you like to bring about a home. So I don't know, what's your as a customer of the store and somebody who comes to a lot of master classes, like what's your take on them?
Yeah, I think my first one was Whiskey Acres, maybe a little over 2 years ago. Um, that was before the bar expansion for sure. Dan and I went, um, and it was awesome. We got to hear straight from one of the owners, about the distillery and all the stuff that they do, and got to try their whiskey. And it's one of the things that sold me on the Whiskey Acres as a brand. Um, and it's probably something that I never would have really cared about had I not gone to that masterclass, which I think is pretty cool. And to kind of expand on that a little bit more, I feel like some of the best master classes that I went to were actually not bourbon or whiskey centric ones. There's a couple of the mezcal ones that were like unbelievably good, and a couple of the Scotch ones that were fantastic. Off the top of my head, Cinco Sentidos was amazing. Um, Torbeg is awesome. Filey Bay was awesome. Loch Lee was awesome. And I always forget that other agave spirit brand.
Cinco Sentidos.
No, the other one. Uh,
Uh,
Starts with a C, I think. Cazadores?
Casca. No, we didn't do one with them.
Cascadas.
Oh, well, we didn't do a master class with them.
I thought you did.
No.
That I'm thinking of something else. They're all in my basement. I don't have the I don't have
Didn't
the
you come? You came
bottles.
to the Mezcal Amaras one, right? Was
Yes,
that it?
Amaras. Yeah,
Okay. Hmm.
yeah, that
Yeah.
one was
Hmm.
awesome. Like the just the I thought that mezcal was just like smoky bullshit, and like basically was tequila, and like that masterclass like opened my eyes to like that agave spirits can be just as complex as bourbons in the US. So very, very cool. And again, something that I probably never would have even given like 3 seconds of thought had I not gone to that masterclass. So very cool. Um, Worth it to go and just try something if like you've heard of a brand and you're like, I don't know. Great example is Few that was here a few weeks ago. Um, that's another brand that I had kind of dismissed a while ago, but they have like blown it out of the water since the last time I had it, which was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. They're just unbelievable now and doing really cool stuff. So yeah, it's just a cool opportunity to get to try a whole bunch of things from different distilleries, and really like I don't know, like it gives you a chance to like really um, understand like everything about the distillery and like all of their products like in one sitting, which is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
short of like going to the distillery is not a typical experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the biggest thing that I wanted to do is like bring the experience of being at the distillery here to the store. That way, all of our customers and local people can kind of just be fully engulfed in what's going on with the distillery. And I think it's a phenomenal value for customers too. We charge typically $25 to $30 for a class, and it includes 6 pours of whiskey, sometimes maybe 8, and pizza at the end, and cheese boards during the tasting. So worst case scenario, if you don't like any of the stuff, but I guarantee you will, you got some cheese boards and pizza for $25, and you got to learn something. I mean, I'm always impressed by the people who come and speak. And by the way, like we do, I screen all of them. Like I make sure it's not, it's never like someone from a tasting agency. Like it has to be someone directly from the distillery, or working directly for the distillery, or somebody who just I know knows a
Mm-hmm.
ton about the brand and represents them in some way. They've got to represent the brand in some way. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, sit there for an hour, taste 6 things in a guided setting, and learn everything there is about the distillery, and get some pizza and some cheese boards, and just hang out. And they're a lot of fun. Like people, you meet a lot of local people who are into the same thing too. I think that's a big aspect of these master classes too. Is everyone's from the Lake County area for the most part, and you just get to meet other people who are like minded and into whiskey or whatever it is we're tasting for that night.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back on your point about how some of the best ones aren't the whiskey ones, I say that all the time too. And I don't know. I think maybe because I don't want to say the whiskey ones get repetitive, um, but if you go to every single one, a lot of the same things maybe are talked about. Of course, there's super unique things with each distillery, but a lot of the winery ones we do, like we're bringing in their head winemaker to come speak. We just did a Hartford Court masterclass 2 weeks ago, and their head winemaker, who's been making wine in California for over 30 years, was there speaking. That's an extremely unique opportunity, and we tasted 6 wines that were usually 3 or 4 of them were usually winery only and limited to like 6 or 12 bottles for the store. So we're a lot of times we're not just tasting the core items. I encourage all the distilleries and people speaking to bring a bonus bottle, something special that people can't normally get at the store. Like just last night, we got to try the Still Austin Rye that was aged in port barrels for 8 months. That was only available at the distillery, and they sold out at the distillery within like 10 days. And the rep was even like, they've never sent me anything like this, but they did it just to share at the masterclass. Um, yeah, man, I think I don't know. I don't want to keep harping on them on how good they are, but I really do think they are. It's a really good value and just a really cool way to learn more about what we're drinking and what we're putting in our bodies. So
Yeah, and even like not every brand is a Buffalo Trace or Four Roses or Jim Beam. It's been around for like a million years or whatever. So like it's cool to hear some of the like newer brands and like why did they start? What's like their mission? Do they have some kind of angle that's cool? You just mentioned Still Austin last night. Like they use all like food grade grains, which is super interesting and something I had never thought about before. That's pretty cool, and very uncommon in the industry. So like in every distillery, especially younger ones, have some kind of cool thing that they're doing like that, that's different and new. We've talked about this and beat this horse to death a million times, but you got to do something to differentiate, and a lot of these brands are doing just that in really really cool ways.
yeah, and a lot of the smaller brands, they might. I think they're better too because the reps are just more passionate about what they're doing.
Mhm.
I think I don't want to say we've had any bad master classes, but some of the least memorable ones to me are like the major brands that sold out right away that everybody was very excited for, just because they don't really need to sell their stuff. They just it sells by itself. I think the smaller brands hire the right people that really care and that are really passionate about what they're doing, and those presentations usually are great. And speaking of Still Austin,
Mhm.
something I learned, or I don't, I guess not learned, but never thought of until last night, was brought up a good point that Scotland is just the size of Texas, which is where Still Austin's from, and people associate Scotch as having a different flavor profile because it comes from different regions in Scotland, and American whiskey I think is so far behind. I don't know, maybe behind is not the right word, but just hasn't been around and booming as long as Scotch has. So why can't the U.S. have different regions, being that it's much larger
Mhm.
than Scotland and the climate affects whiskey, we all know. So it's not fair to compare like a Texas whiskey to something aged in Michigan or Kentucky, even because it's much hotter It evaporates a lot quicker. There's more wild temperature changes, and especially if you're using grains from each pocket of the U.S., the whiskey should taste a lot different. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about how, as American whiskey evolves, maybe we'll have some designated regions, so people can say, instead of just a distillery, like, oh, I like Texas whiskey, or I like Kentucky whiskey, I like California whiskey, etc.
Yeah, like Texas whiskey is a great example because it's like punch you in the face different from all
Mm-hmm.
the others because of the heat, and like it really imparts that like barrel char into like pretty much across the board on Texas brands. But yeah, it's something that I think we should be on the lookout for next is like the regional or maybe state by state kind of uh I don't know
Designations. I
what you
mean,
call it, like designations or like
yeah, or like whiskey
compartmentalization of like
categories, because like Missouri is a
yeah.
good example, because Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
Missouri straight bourbon is now a real category, due
Mm-hmm.
to why am I blanking on the name? Help me out here. Ben Holiday
Yeah, Ben
was
Holiday.
able to get Missouri straight bourbon as an official category. So I think we will start seeing more regional things like that, and I think that's very cool, because there are much different strategies when it comes to aging, how long it's aged for, and yeah, there's just a lot that goes into it. Even with Texas, like, they still, Austin said they pretty much had to do the Nancy Fraley proofing method, which we all love, the cognac proofing method,
Mm-hmm.
where they slow proof it, just because the whiskey picks up so much flavor so quickly. You kind of need it to mellow itself out slowly and balance everything out. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, I got to point out that Jake is drinking Torabeg right now. I saw him
Yeah.
reach for that bottle, so uh, that's pretty cool. I'm a huge Torabeg fan, and I we're supposed to be getting the new batch, or the new series, series number 3 from Torabeg soon, which is extremely exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm
But we'll
pumped for that.
Yeah. But we'll try to stay on American whiskey and master classes for this episode. Did you reach for it
Yeah.
because you're in a Scotch mood, or did you think about Bruce's master classes that we've done?
I
Because
mentioned the master class, and I was like, I haven't had that in a bit, and
yeah,
yeah, it's
because
the cast
he,
strength is just so good. So
yeah, Bruce is my guy. He's done a really good job. We got to get him on the podcast. That reminds me, I got to reach out to him and try
hmm
and schedule him on here for Scotch Matters. So
yeah,
yeah, before Dan comes back.
coming soon.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to sign up for one of these master classes, just go to goldeagle1.com, or go on our app and go to the events section, and you'll see all the upcoming ones. I will say a lot of the whiskey ones do sell out pretty quick, so you got to jump on those early. But as we talked about, some of the non-whiskey ones and some of the sleeper ones are some of the best classes. And to even go further on that, we've got our next one is May 7th, I believe. Let me get that date right, just to be sure. I think it's May 7th, Tuesday. Yep, May 7th. Courage and Conviction, which is
Yeah.
Virginia distilling. Um, some of the best American single malt in the country. If you're a bourbon drinker, do not be afraid. There is absolutely no peat, and it is very sweet, kind of like a bourbon. The
hmm
most bourbon like single malt I've tried across the board, I would say. But what's also exciting about that class is we're going to be doing a barrel pick, and their single barrels at cash strength are absolutely ridiculous. some of the best whiskey I've ever tried. Yeah, so if you want to learn all about Courage and Conviction, Virginia Distilling, May 7th, we're going to be picking a barrel. Help us pick a barrel. If you've wanted to pick a single barrel out, this is your chance. And then after that, the blind pig tasting, but I think that's going to be sold out by the time this episode airs. After that, we're going to have Injury single malt. It's an Indian single malt. If you're listening to this, do yourself a favor and sign up right now. That's going to probably be one of the most in-depth and educational masterclasses we've ever done. They have won so many awards. Last year, they were called the #1 Indian single malt in the world. And we talk about allocated bourbon all the time. This is probably one of the most allocated whiskeys ever that nobody's heard of. We receive like 2 or 3 bottles at a time every 4 or 5 months. It still doesn't really sell out right away for us, but other parts of the world, the stuff is in huge demand. Indian single malt just is not a thing here yet, but their global ambassador who works at the distillery in India is going to be here, and he's going to take us through a component tasting where we're going to taste the different parts that go into the Injury single malt, which aren't normally bottled and aren't normally available to the public. So we're going to taste some really, really interesting whiskeys. He's going to explain how and why they blend it all together. And they also set aside about 10 cases of their different whiskeys combined for us to sell at the event too. So we will have plenty of product to sell. And we're going to have like 12 bottles of their extremely limited edition, which I think we're going to be one of the only places that's going to receive it, all because we're doing this event. So if you want an under the radar, but not under the radar, just really in depth, learn something new. If you're not a single malt fan, this is your chance to kind of branch out and just really be engulfed in something special and something new and expand your palate and expand your whiskey knowledge range.
Yeah, worst case, you just come hang out with me and Jake.
Come hang out with us. Yeah, have some pizza, have some really good whiskey, and it's not going to be a bad time. I can promise you that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. It'll be cool to try the like actual components of a blend, and like the finished product like together.
Yeah,
that'll be really interesting.
We did that once with Black Tot Rum, and that was one of the best tastings we've done. I don't know if you were there for that one, but we had their global ambassador here, and Black Tot Rum is just one product, but they source from 4 different distilleries. So we got to try each of the rums that were sourced from the distilleries, and then the final product. So that was just super in depth, and yeah, like a lot of those kind of under the radar brands are the ones you learn the most because the people they have working for them, representing them, are really passionate and really care about what they do. Otherwise, they would be with a big name brand.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for the upcoming ones. Mm-hmm. We'll probably do for another Bourbon Matters tasting too.
Mm-hmm. If you're a listener, comment and let us know what you want to see from a Bourbon Matters. Should we do another blind? Should we do something else? I don't know. Should we do a themed blind tasting? We'll have to start thinking about that and definitely get something on the schedule this summer.
Yeah. Maybe do cocktails.
That might be a little tricky, but maybe we can do like a welcome or finishing cocktail of Jake's cocktail session.
Yeah.
Jake's little cocktail masterclass. If you make that smoked old fashioned, I'm in.
Oh yeah, yeah. We could probably swing that. All right. Well, if they're looking for tickets, where can they find them?
Yeah, goldeaglewine.com or download our app. And we have an events page on the website and an events section in the app. You can see everything upcoming. And you just sign up right in there and buy your ticket, and you're good to go. And we just print out a list and check you in when you come. But keep an eye on the events page, because here's a little tidbit too. We do post the events on the events page before we announce it on social media, because we do have a lot of regulars that come to almost every single masterclass, and they know to check the events page early, get signed up early, because a lot of these events, especially the whiskey ones, almost always sell out. So you do need to
Mm-hmm.
jump on it early. But yeah, check the events page. Follow us on social media too to get the updates as well. Gold Eagle Spirits on Facebook and at Gold Eagle Wine on Instagram. And yeah, can't go wrong with that. Where can we listen to Bourbon Matters besides everywhere?
You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and probably anywhere else that you look.
Amazon.
Um, yeah. Um, the even like the reading app, I think you can find us on.
Oh.
You can watch us on YouTube and Spotify. Leave a comment, subscribe. Like Jake said, tell us what kind of masterclass you would like us to do sometime this summer.
Feedback, people, feedback.
That'd be fun.
Oh,
Yeah, we're looking for ideas. We're open to ideas. Um, no one's gonna want to do my ideas, which would just be all rye. So
you know what's actually really cool is I've noticed a surplus lately of people just coming up to me in the store and like saying, "Oh, I listened to this episode. That was really good, and I love that episode, and I learned this in this episode." And we do get some pretty decent sales with people using the coupon codes that I'm dropping on here. So appreciate you all. Thank you for listening. But yeah, let's get you more involved. Let us know what you want us to talk about. And hopefully, I see some of you taking advantage of the free half-ounce pour of the Barrell Mizunara when that comes in. Neat.
yeah, make sure you listen to the whole episode. You never know when a coupon code's
Right?
gonna sneak in. So yeah, I think next week we might launch Scotch Matters,
Ooh.
our mini series on Scotch that Jake and I have wanted to do for a while now. So yeah, keep an open mind. Just because you're a diehard bourbon fan doesn't mean you'll hate Scotch. So give it a
Well, you might,
listen.
but still keep an
We'll
open
both,
mind,
I mean,
and
give some like good. Well,
it'll be interesting
yeah,
either way.
we'll we'll give some
We'll give
good
some entry
recommendations
level.
on places to
Mm-hmm.
start with each of the
Yeah.
regions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. We should do it.
And I'm new to Scotch too, so I've got I've gotten good recommendations, and I'm happy with the things I've been trying so far, as evidenced by this one
Mm-hmm.
that I'm drinking right now. So yeah, tune in next week and every week. So yeah, we'll see you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Eat the good
Oh yeah.
glass.
Ooh yeah. Those
There we
things
go.
ring nice.